Who's the player, Fuji, that you're looking at or you think is going to be on the move here in the next couple of weeks?
Definitely on the move, Victor Oladipo. That is my pick. That was probably the easiest person to say is on the move. Recently declined a contract extension with the Rockets. He's got his eyes elsewhere.
I feel like with Houston, the move with them is to just sell off everything and just total rebuild. Even though they traded their picks, they got some back from Brooklyn, of course, and they're probably not going to be great first-round picks, but at least they got picks. Mm-hmm. And I guess they have some swaps with OKC. But I feel like the move for Houston is just to trade everybody, including Oladipo. Just get as many assets as you can, bring that in, and just be shit for a few years and do a proper rebuild. Kind of go the Philly way. Not that level, but I feel like go the Philly way, which is kind of too bad for Christian Wood. But
yeah, I mean, I really like Christian Wood. I think he's definitely what every GM wants their big man to be this nowadays. And it's kind of unfortunate he got hurt. I think the Rockets definitely would have been trying to get into the playoffs if he was healthy. But, this is not how it goes sometimes. And Rockets just have a ton of trade value on their team. Everybody's top teams are looking at John Wall. They're looking at PJ Tucker. They're looking at Oladipo. They can definitely get a lot more picks, a lot more assets back.
I mean, Wall and Oladipo aren't actually bad players. I just feel like they're not quite like they maybe are an 8th seed in the West. Like they're a fringe playoff team with those guys. I don't know that they're not the heavy contender that they have been in years past. So that's kind of why if you're Houston, I would kind of just sell it off and see what you can get for those guys. Oladipo being one of those guys. Eric Gordon is another name I'd throw out there. I don't know that they would move on from Eric Gordon, but just throw that name out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Because a guy I am watching or interested in seeing get moved, I have to go with LaVine. I have to see if the Bulls would move Zach LaVine. I mean, it's there has to be the right trade for LaVine. I feel like they're not just going to trade him away for nothing. I feel like he has his value, he has his place. And the Bulls aren't actually awful. Like they're not great by any means, but they could make it into the play-in tournament. So,
I honestly think that the Bulls are mostly good where they are. I know that they are competing for a playoff spot. They are still in that hunt. If you're trading anybody on that team, I think you should probably be trading players who have larger contracts like Otto Porter. I know, lots of teams have interest in Otto Porter. He's one of those guys where, if you pick him up for your team, you're not really hurting anybody, and, he just has value wherever he goes, kind of like Robert Covington or, other wing players that are, are good on defense, athletic, can shoot.
Yeah, I was going to say LaVine's not the first guy the Bulls would trade. I just wonder if the Bulls are going to go down that rabbit hole of just trading either LaVine or Lowry Markkanen. Maybe they would part with him, or maybe, Wendell Carter's young. I don't know that they would move on, but depending on what direction the Bulls want to go in, I think there's a world in which they trade LaVine. I don't think it's likely. I just wonder if he is someone that they decide to move on from. Is there a team who you feel like needs to make a move, or like a team that needs that extra player, that extra to get them over the hump?
I would say Denver. Denver would be my go-to pick for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jamal Murray this year, he's been great, but I feel like he's not the Jamal Murray we saw in the bubble. I thought he was going to take that next step. I thought he was going to, solidify himself as an all-star, guaranteed all-star, superstar point guard in this league. And it just didn't really happen this year. Not that specifically, I would say the Nuggets should part with him, but I am saying that they should be open to trade talks if they're going to land a better player. I don't think specifically there are better point guards available right now, but maybe you could be looking for other guys potentially.
Because I'm just looking through here, and there's not a lot of teams that really. Yeah, the Raptors might do something. Maybe the Jazz do something too. We'll discuss the Jazz later on. The one team that kind of stands out a little bit is the Lakers, with just like, now that Brooklyn's added a piece, are you going to add a piece? Like, it's kind of mano a mano, that sort of thing. I think there's actually a lot of teams that are good where they are. I don't know that, and this is kind of a weird year too with COVID, and teams are losing money left, right, and center. I don't know if anybody's anxious to go and make a move, to go and trade a whole bunch of players, especially when you're bringing in a whole bunch of money. Like, Brooklyn's like the rare exception where they brought in Harden. I don't know. I don't know who needs to trade to or add to really make a push. Maybe the Lakers, but I can't see the Lakers making a whole lot of moves either.
Yeah, another one I would put out would be the Clippers. I think the Clippers have been really quiet. They've kind of just added their bench over the offseason. They picked up good veterans like Serge and Batum. That really helps their defense, but I feel like they need that extra oomph right now. I really don't think. I think Patrick Beverley and Lou Williams are on a downward slump, and I think if you want to make PG Kawhi work, I think you need some extra firepower.
Yeah, and the problem with the Clippers, which is not really their fault, it's just their issue, is that like Phoenix has got better. I'd say Utah has got better. Denver is still good. I think Denver could still beat the Clippers in a 7-game series again. Like, the Clippers might be like the 4th or 5th best team in the West. Like, they're not like fighting for the top seed. They're not bad. I don't know that they are the same team as last year in terms of fighting for a top seed all the time. So I could see Clippers make sense as well. I want to get your insight on a few players who possibly could get moved, or what do you think is going to happen with them? One of them being Kyle Lowry, Toronto Raptor. I want to say legend, face of the franchise right now, Kyle Lowry, maybe. Do you think Lowry gets moved? Do you think now they're going to trade Kyle to? I don't know why they would trade. Well, I kind of get why they would trade Kyle, but do you think they would trade Kyle? I guess is what I'm asking.
I think a lot of people, like, sentimentally. Is that what sentimentally?
That's kind of, I get where you're coming from there.
People would like to see Kyle, just retire as a Raptor, just be there. But he is taking up a good amount of money. He could potentially start going on like a downward slump. He is kind of getting up there in age. We did see him do very well in last year's playoffs, though. But he does have a lot of value.
I was going to say, it's like, Lowry's one of those guys. He has more. He's most valuable to the Raptors, if that makes sense. Where, I think trying to think of a team that would, like, Philadelphia, who we've talked about, could possibly go after Lowry. It's just, I think Philly would have to give up a package that I don't know that they would be willing to give up to acquire Lowry, because he means so much to the Raptors.
Yeah.
Which is the hardest part in all this, is trading one of your franchise and they did it with DeRozan a few years ago, but it's not easy to do after you won the championship, and how well they performed last year when people didn't give them a lot of opportunities to go win a championship. But we'll see how it is with Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the Raptors probably have a higher asking price than what teams probably think Lowry is worth. But I definitely think that, you could give up certain players to acquire Kyle Lowry, but I don't think that it's in Philadelphia's best interest.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying like they want like a Ben Simmons Kyle swap. It's like
that's
a little
trade.
That's a bit much. Even giving up Seth Curry, I think Seth Curry gets better every single year. I'm a big Seth Curry guy, and this year he's definitely become more of a playmaker, and he's been able to kind of somewhat fill that playmaking spot on Philadelphia that they kind of lacked. It's definitely really helped them offensively, and he also has a ton of shooting. I don't think you want to give up Seth Curry in that deal either, unless you're, getting something else with Kyle Lowry.
I was gonna say Seth Curry fits really well in Philadelphia, under the Morey Doc Rivers system. I think he fits really well in Philadelphia. So I don't know why you would move Curry to get Lowry, who I don't think is as good of a fit in that Philadelphia system. But I could be wrong. That might just be me. Lowry's an interesting player. I don't know what happens. I don't think he'll get moved, but
I think it's unlikely. Clippers could add, they can send like guys on low or expiring contracts like Lou Williams, Patrick Beverly, helps you rebuild. You get picks from Clippers as well, potentially. It just clears crap space for the Clippers. They get Lowry. It's a good deal if you're going in that direction for the Raptors. I think if you are the Raptors, I think you're probably looking for playoffs in like about 2-3 years. I think you kind of want Siakam to develop more as a player. Because we did see last year in the playoffs, he did have that issue that Giannis had early in his playoff career, where teams would play good team defense and you just wouldn't be able to operate.
Yeah. So I guess to conclude, with Lowry, we should say, I would say out of and that's what, a Big Eat's 5 stars. I think there's a 2-star chance that Lowry gets moved. I don't think, I think it's less than 50% that Lowry gets moved.
Yeah. I mean, he just means so much. It's kind of hard to part with someone like that.
Kristaps Porzingis, the unicorn. Porzingis on his way out of Dallas. That's a weird situation going on there.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird situation since, Mark Cuban coaching staff were so high on having that duo of Kristaps Porzingis and Luka. It's kind of, he's just been injury ridden all his years on the Mavs, even in New York. Mm-hmm. Apparently management with him is a big issue. He's a diva. Apparently his cousins or brothers are his management, and they're just total pain in the ass for Mark Cuban, I guess. I think it's kind of hard to move a player like that. You definitely have to sell it to somebody who's looking at the positives rather than the negatives. The positives of getting Porzingis is you have a great modern day big man. The negatives are just weird shit.
I feel like you're more likely to see a Porzingis deal than a Lowry deal.
Yeah,
and sure. part of that is just because Porzingis is just a better asset overall. He's a younger guy who's tall and can shoot threes. I mean, not trying to discredit Kyle Lowry's, offensive charge.
Hey, we love our short kings, man.
We love our short, thick kings in Kyle Lowry. But I don't know. I feel like if you're the Mavs, you kind of stick with Porzingis unless it's really out of control, unless it's unmanageable, in which case you get rid of him. But I don't see, again, this is a 2, maybe 2.5 star potential trade here with Porzingis out of Dallas. I think
it could be higher.
Could be higher. Yeah. Okay.
I think there's definitely deals that you could package Porzingis in. You could send him to the Warriors. Potentially you could use him in a blockbuster deal for even bigger things, like potentially Bradley Beal. you never know what Mark Cuban can just pull out of his briefcase. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a smart dude, that Mark Cuban. He's no dummy. He's one of the smartest guys in the league, so I can't.
Yeah.
I'd almost be afraid to trade with him. One last guy that I feel like we should mention, just because I don't know if you can. Is it this side? No, I think it's this side. My number 2, Lonzo Ball on the Lakers. Zoe, he struggled last year in the bubble, kind of struggling again this season. Is there a world in which Lonzo gets traded?
I think there is potentially. There are deals that you could do for Lonzo. Pelicans aren't looking to make a playoff push. They're 14th in the West.
They're
that bad, but at some point
they're definitely on the outside looking in.
Yeah. If you're the Pelicans, you can be as patient as you want with Lonzo. I think personally, he's not going to get moved. If you look at his recent stats, he is shooting nearly 40% from 3 in the last month. He is averaging, over 13 points per game, I believe. And, he's got great intangibles. He's, he handles the ball well. He's got great passing ability. He's got great defensive IQ. He's quick, athletic. I mean, as a young player, he'll just continue to develop. And I think if you trade him now, I think you would regret it.
He is actually a good player. Like, as much as people want to shit on him, I think he actually is a good player who has a role, and he needs to have a smart team that knows how to use him well. Like, I think he would be a really good fit on Dallas, for example. Yeah. I think Lonzo would be a really good piece on Dallas, because I think he would mesh well with Luka. I don't know if they would trade Kristaps but anyway, I just think him and Luka could work really well together. Like, there's got to be a team with a smart coach, with a good system, who knows how to use Lonzo and how to use him. I wouldn't be surprised if New Orleans moves on from him. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to get rid of him, because I don't know. It just feels like he's kind of the least talented, even though he's actually not that bad. But between Zion, Brandon Ingram, even Redick to a certain extent, where I think some people just like Redick just because he purely shoots threes, and that's just where the league is now and how valuable you are or you can be. So I mean, we'll see. I'm not totally sold on trading Lonzo. I'm not totally sold on the team giving up on him yet, but that's why I wanted to bring him up. It's just because his name has been thrown around, and he hasn't. I don't know. There was always the hype. There was always the high expectation for him, and now that even that his brother has come into the league and outperformed him, probably doesn't help either.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way Lonzo gets moved is, maybe in a big blockbuster deal, like a 3 or 4 team deal. I think eventually, if things keep going the way it is, I think Lonzo is going to end up on the Hornets. To be honest, ooh. I think he's going to pair up with LaMelo. I think that's going to be a backcourt.
I like that. I don't hate that at all. That's actually a really, really smart call. That's a good. I'll say it's a hot take. That's a good hot take. Saying that Lonzo will play for the Hornets. Any other players or names that you think that we should be on the lookout for heading into trade deadline?
I think Andrew Wiggins is gone. I think he's done deal by the deadline. I think Warriors definitely favor Kelly Oubre. I know a lot of female viewers would favor Kelly Oubre over Andrew Wiggins.
And Rav has him in fantasy basketball, so Rav's big with Kelly Oubre right now.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that he's injured right now. Wrist injury. You never know.
Just throwing that out there. Wrist injury. Just throwing that out there.
I mean, that's just what's reported. I don't know. I'm just saying the reports. I just tell the news.
You're just providing insight. A guy I'm kind of focused on myself a little bit is John Collins, because I like John Collins. I think he's good. I think he's a good player. The Atlanta situation is weird too, kind of with what's going on with the Hawks. So I think John Collins also has a place in the league. I wouldn't mind seeing him get moved and maybe try, somewhere different, new situation, new spot.
I think so. I think Trae Young, bit of a diva apparently. He's got rid of his coach. He's trying to get rid of John Collins. Kind of like a James Harden situation, honestly.
He kind of feels like a Harden player a little bit with how he plays.
Yeah.
And I don't mind Trae either. I don't mind his game, but I definitely get the Harden comparisons when it comes to Trae Young on the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah.